Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of humanity's embassy on Nexus Prime, watching the artificial rings of the Confederation capital world shimmer with quantum-filtered starlight. After 200 years of peaceful coexistence, she had finally gathered enough evidence to confirm what Earth's intelligence service had long suspected. The Nexus Confederation, with its 17 founding species and network of 200 client races, had never intended to welcome humanity as equals. Their elaborate dance of treaties, technological exchange programs, and cultural integration initiatives had all been an expertly crafted deception. Sarah's neural implant pulsed softly as another classified report arrived from the Sol Defense Grid. The Confederation's latest protective initiative had just been unanimously approved by the Grand Council. Under the guise of preventing destabilizing technological proliferation, they would begin installing oversight modules in all human quantum computing systems. "They still think we're blind," she whispered to herself, watching the endless stream of ships flowing through the orbital lanes above. The Confederation's arrogance had always been its greatest weakness. They saw humans as clever primitives, dangerous enough to contain, but too naive to recognize the subtle chains being placed around them. What the Confederation couldn't know, was that humanity had been playing a very different game. The first hint had come during the Proxima Centauri colonization crisis, when the Confederation had generously offered to mediate humanity's expansion efforts. Their solution had effectively cut humanity's growth rate by 60%, all while positioning Confederation monitoring stations throughout human space. At the time, Earth had protested, then seemingly accepted the restrictions with reluctant gratitude. Sarah's wrist computer chimed softly. Grand Arbiter Zixtal, the Confederation's chief diplomatic officer, was requesting her presence at the council chamber, right on schedule. As she made her way through the crystalline corridors of the embassy, Sarah reflected on the centuries of careful preparation that had led to this moment. While the Confederation had been slowly tightening their noose, humanity had been building, learning, waiting. The council chamber doors parted silently, revealing the assembled diplomatic corps of the galaxy's dominant power. 217 species represented, each convinced of their own superiority, each certain that humanity was safely contained. Ambassador Chen, Zixtal's translator, rendered his complex harmonics into standard English. "We are pleased to inform you that the Technological Harmony Act has passed unanimously. This represents a great step forward in human Confederation relations." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Indeed, Grand Arbiter. Earth's government will be most interested in reviewing the implementation protocols. We have already prepared the first wave of oversight teams," another council member chimed in. "They can begin the installation process within the next solar cycle." "That's very efficient," Sarah replied, keeping her voice carefully neutral. "However, Earth's government will require the standard review period of 30 days before any external access to our systems can be granted." She could sense their frustration, even through their carefully maintained diplomatic facades. The humans were supposed to be grateful, eager even, for this protection. Their insistence on following proper diplomatic procedure was inconvenient. "Ambassador," Zixtal's tone carried the faintest edge of condescension. "Surely you understand that delays only serve to heighten security risks. The Council strongly recommends immediate implementation." Sarah stood, smoothing her formal diplomatic robes. "The Council's recommendation is noted, Grand Arbiter. However, Earth will exercise its right to the full review period as established under the Fourth Concordat." As she turned to leave, her neural implant registered the encrypted burst transmission being sent to Earth, a single word that would set in motion 2 centuries of careful planning. Begin. In the depths of human space, in hidden shipyards and classified research stations, machinery that had waited generations began to power up. On Earth, in secure bunkers beneath the Olympus Mons colony on Mars, and throughout the seemingly limited human sphere, quantum computers far more advanced than anything the Confederation had imagined hummed to life. The game was about to change, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Confederation discovered their mistake during a routine scan of Sol's asteroid belt. What they had dismissed as mining operations were something far more significant. Their probes detected energy signatures that shouldn't have been possible with human-level technology. Admiral Kexry of the Confederation Security Fleet watched the sensor data with mounting horror. The humans had somehow managed to construct quantum fold generators throughout their entire system, technology that the Confederation had deemed too dangerous to share with developing species. Impossible, he chittered to his command staff. Their energy containment should be at least a century behind this level. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The humans hadn't just matched Confederation technology, they had surpassed it. The Admiral made a decision that would be studied in military academies for generations to come. He ordered an immediate preventive strike on the nearest human installation, believing a swift show of force would bring humanity back in line. The flotilla of Confederation warships emerged from quantum space near the Jupiter defense perimeter, their weapons charged, ready to destroy what they assumed would be primitive human defenses. They never got the chance to fire. The space around them warped, twisted, and suddenly they were surrounded by ships that didn't match any known human design. Sleek, dark vessels that seemed to drink in light itself, their hulls covered in geometric patterns that hurt the eye to look at. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice echoed through every ship in the Confederation fleet. "This is your only warning. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted out of Sol space." Kexry's mandibles clicked in agitation. "This is impossible. Your species doesn't have the technological capability. Your species has a remarkable talent for underestimating others," Chen interrupted. "We've spent 2 centuries letting you believe what you wanted to believe. That ends today." The Admiral's pride overrode his judgment. "Open fire. Show these primitives the consequences of deception." The Confederation ships launched their attack, and that's when the true scale of humanity's preparation became clear. The human vessels didn't dodge or evade. They simply shifted, the space around them folding in ways that made Confederation targeting systems crash. Then the humans responded, not with conventional weapons, but with something far more sophisticated. Quantum fields enveloped the Confederation ships, and suddenly their most advanced systems simply stopped working. "We could destroy your fleet." Chen's voice was coldly professional. "But unlike you, we don't believe in unnecessary bloodshed. Your ships will be towed to the system's edge. You have 6 hours to evacuate all Confederation personnel from human space. After that, any unauthorized presence will be considered an act of war." As Kexry watched his mighty fleet being effortlessly neutralized, a classified message arrived from Nexus Prime. The humans had simultaneously revealed similar capabilities throughout their sphere of influence. Every Confederation observation post, every oversight station, every supposed means of control, all had been quietly surrounded by forces that had remained hidden for centuries. The message from the Grand Council was clear: retreat immediately. Back on Earth, in the newly revealed Strategic Command Center beneath the Pacific Ocean, Sarah Chen met with the Human Defense Council. The holographic displays showed the Confederation's forces scrambling to comply with the evacuation order. "They'll try to retaliate," one of the counselors warned, "once they recover from the shock." Sarah smiled. "Let them try. Phase 2 is already in motion. By the time they organize a response, they'll discover just how many of their client species have been waiting for this moment." The quantum communications network, far more advanced than anything the Confederation knew existed, lit up with signals from dozens of supposedly primitive races. Humanity hadn't just been preparing its own defense. They had been quietly building alliances with every species the Confederation had tried to subjugate. The balance of power wasn't just shifting, it was about to be completely rewritten. And this time, the galaxy would learn that underestimating humanity was the last mistake they would ever make. The Grand Council of the Confederation convened an emergency session as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The humans hadn't just been hiding their technological advances. They had completely rewritten the rules of what was thought possible. First came the reports from the Orion Arm. The supposedly primitive Archeans, long dismissed as simple crystal-based life forms, revealed city ships that had been hiding in plain sight within their stellar nurseries. Human quantum technology had helped them evolve beyond anything the Confederation had imagined possible. Then the Proxima colonies, which the Confederation had fought successfully contained, began unfolding massive structures that had been disguised as orbital debris. Each piece was part of a vast network that could redirect quantum space itself, effectively controlling all faster-than-light travel in the region. High Chancellor Vexthor watched in mounting dread as his aides presented hologram after hologram of human achievements that had somehow remained hidden for centuries. "How?" he demanded. "How did we miss all of this?" Ambassador Chen's hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, her image steady despite the Confederation's attempts to block the transmission. "You saw what you expected to see," she explained, her voice carrying no trace of mockery, only statement of fact. "When we struggled with basic fusion technology, you never questioned why we needed so much heavy water. When we seemed to barely grasp quantum communications, you didn't wonder why we were collecting so much exotic matter." The chamber erupted in angry shouts and accusations, but Chen continued undisturbed. "Every limitation you placed on us became an opportunity. Every technology you denied us forced us to innovate in ways you never considered. You were so focused on controlling what you thought we were doing, you never saw what we actually built." On cue, the massive quantum screens throughout the chamber activated, showing feeds from across human space. The images were staggering. Dyson swarms that had been disguised as asteroid fields. Quantum computers integrated into the very fabric of space. Ships that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. But the greatest oversight, Chen continued, was assuming we would keep these advances to ourselves. That we would be as selfish with knowledge as the Confederation has been. The feeds shifted to show dozens of species the Confederation had relegated to protectorate status. The arthropoid Zexthi, whose primitive hive minds now operated vast networks of quantum-enhanced consciousness. The energy-based Lumini, who had partnered with humans to develop technologies that transformed entire stars into computational matrices. Humanity remembers its own history. Chen's voice hardened. "We remember being the underestimated, the controlled, the suppressed. So we made a different choice. Every species you tried to keep down, we helped rise up. Every race you dismissed as primitive, we showed how to bypass your restrictions." High Chancellor Vexthor's scales had turned pale. "You realize this means war. The Confederation cannot allow." "The Confederation," Chen interrupted, "is already obsolete. This isn't an uprising or a rebellion. This is simply us informing you that the old order is over. The species you've suppressed are now our allies, equals in a new coalition that will replace your hierarchy of control with a genuine community of cooperation." As if to emphasize her point, massive ships began emerging from quantum space around every major Confederation world. Not human vessels. These belonged to the very species the Confederation had fought safely contained. Each one demonstrated technology far beyond what should have been possible. "You have a choice," Chen concluded. "Join us as equals in building something better, or cling to your illusion of superiority and fade into irrelevance. Unlike you, we're not interested in conquest or control. We're offering a genuine partnership, but only if you're willing to accept that the age of Confederation dominance is over." The council chamber fell silent as the full implications became clear. The humans hadn't just outmaneuvered them technologically. They had completely undermined the very foundation of Confederation power. And they had done it not through force or conquest, but by simply helping others rise up alongside them. The Confederation's response came not with the expected military strike, but with something far more desperate. They activated the Omega Protocol, a hidden network of quantum suppression fields designed to disable all advanced technology within their sphere of influence. It was their ultimate failsafe, meant to protect against precisely this type of technological uprising. As the wave of quantum disruption spread across Confederation space, Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the Earth ship Prometheus. Her officers tensed, waiting for their systems to fail. Instead, their quantum cores hummed steadily, completely unaffected by what should have been a devastating attack. Did they really think we wouldn't know about the Omega Protocol? Chen's first officer, Commander Jackson, asked quietly. We've had 2 centuries to prepare. Pride makes for poor strategy, Chen replied, watching as the Confederation's own systems began to fail. Their quantum suppression wave, reflected and redirected by human technology, was crippling their own infrastructure. The quantum comm crackled to life with a priority message from Earth Command. Operation Lighthouse is go. All units commence Phase 4. Across the galaxy, humanity's true masterpiece revealed itself, not in weapons or shields, but in something far more powerful, the ability to preserve and protect. As Confederation worlds went dark, hit by their own quantum disruption, human ships appeared in orbit around each one, not to conquer, but to help. Emergency power systems activated, keeping vital infrastructure online. Medical facilities remained operational. Food and water distribution continued uninterrupted. The chaos the Confederation had hoped to unleash instead became a demonstration of humanity's foresight and compassion. On New Mars, the headquarters of the Human Allied Species Council convened its first emergency session. Representatives from over 50 former primitive species gathered to coordinate the response. The Archean's crystal matrices provided real-time communication across the affected sectors. The Lumini's stellar networks maintained navigational safety for thousands of worlds. The Zexthi hive minds coordinated relief efforts with impossible precision. The Confederation leadership is requesting terms, announced the Lumini representative, their energy form pulsing with what humans had learned to recognize as amusement. They seem rather eager to negotiate now. Chen's hologram appeared before the council. The terms are simple, the same ones we've been trying to offer for 2 centuries. Genuine cooperation, free exchange of knowledge, and equal status for all sapient species. From the Confederation capital, now dependent on human technology to maintain basic functions, High Chancellor Vexthor addressed his people. His scales had turned the deep blue of profound realization. For generations, he began, we believed our duty was to guide and control the development of younger species. We convinced ourselves that our restrictions and oversight were protective, not oppressive. Today, we have been shown a better way. The broadcast reached every Confederation world, carried by the very networks they had tried to disable. The humans and their allies have demonstrated not just technological superiority, but wisdom we had forgotten. They could have used this moment to destroy or subjugate us. Instead, they stand ready to help us rebuild, as equals, not rulers. Across human space, the quantum cores that had remained hidden for so long continued their quiet work. But now, they served a different purpose, not preparation for war, but the foundation of a new galactic order. One built not on control and suspicion, but on cooperation and mutual growth. The Confederation's mighty fleets, their weapons now useless, hung motionless in space. Around them, ships of a dozen different species worked together, restoring power, maintaining order, proving that humanity's greatest achievement hadn't been surpassing Confederation technology. It had been showing the galaxy a better way to use it. 1 year after the fall of the Confederation, the Great Chamber of the new Galactic Council held its first formal session. Unlike its predecessor's crystal spires, this gathering took place in a structure that celebrated the contributions of all species. Archean crystal matrices provided quantum computing, Lumini energy fields powered environmental systems, and human innovation tied it all together. Ambassador Chen, now serving as Earth's representative to the Council, stood at the podium. The chamber around her held delegates from over 300 species, former Confederation members, and primitive races alike, all now equals in the new order. 1,000 years ago on Earth, she began. Humanity nearly destroyed itself through fear, prejudice, and the desire to control others. We learned then what the Confederation never understood. True strength comes not from domination, but from lifting others up alongside you. The holographic displays activated, showing images from across the galaxy. Former Confederation worlds now flourished with unprecedented freedom to develop and innovate. The Zexley hives had evolved into vast networks of shared consciousness, their insights revolutionizing quantum physics. The Lumini had transformed entire star systems into works of living art that doubled as computational engines. But perhaps our greatest achievement, Chen continued, was something that began 2 centuries ago, when we first encountered the Confederation. We recognized in them the same fears and impulses that had nearly ended our own civilization, and we chose a different path. The displays shifted to show the true scope of humanity's long-term planning. The seemingly primitive colonies that had actually been vast research centers. The trade routes that had secretly been laying the groundwork for a galaxy-wide quantum network. The diplomatic missions that had really been building connections with every species the Confederation had tried to suppress. We could have focused solely on our own advancement, Chen explained. We could have developed our technology in secret and then emerged to challenge the Confederation directly. But we remembered our own history, how isolation leads to fear, and fear leads to conflict. Former High Chancellor Vexthor, now serving as the representative of his people to the new council, rose to speak. His scales shimmered with the deep green of wisdom gained through humility. We thought we were containing a potential threat, he admitted. Instead, we were watching the most patient teachers in galactic history. While we focused on control, humanity was showing us a better way, by demonstrating it rather than forcing it upon us. The quantum networks hummed with activity as news of the council session spread across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, beings of all species watched as a new era truly began. The age of separation is over, Chen declared. The barriers between species, between organic and energy beings, between different forms of consciousness, all of these were artificial constructs born of fear. Today we begin the real work of building something greater than any one species could achieve alone. As if to emphasize her point, the entire chamber transformed. The quantum fields maintained by the Lumini merged with Archean crystal matrices, creating a real-time representation of the galaxy itself. Within it, every delegate could see the countless connections forming between species, the free flow of knowledge and innovation that was already transforming their understanding of the universe. This, Chen gestured to the swirling galactic display, is what humanity had hoped for from the beginning. Not an empire, not a hierarchy, but a genuine community of equals, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities, each growing stronger by helping others grow alongside them. The chamber erupted in a chorus of agreement, voiced in hundreds of different ways by hundreds of different species, but all expressing the same sentiment. The galaxy was entering an unprecedented age of cooperation and discovery. In the end, humanity's greatest victory hadn't come from superior technology or military might. It had come from remembering their own history and choosing to help others avoid the same mistakes. They had spent 2 centuries appearing patient and constrained, all while teaching the galaxy the most important lesson of all. True power lies not in controlling others, but in helping them reach their full potential. The age of the Confederation was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And throughout the galaxy, species that had once been rivals or enemies now worked together, building something greater than any of them had imagined possible.